Thank you for that. For those, if this is your first CCHR webinar, I do want to warmly welcome you. My name is Eitan Cylinder. It's a really funny name. In English, it would be Ethan, but mine's a Hebrew name, and you know, when they take foreign names into English, they usually butcher them, and that's actually how you have the name Ethan. The original name is Eitan, pronounced like a ton of fun, or more closely, a ton of trouble, which I do get myself in quite often. That is me, ladies and gentlemen. I've been working at CCHR on staff for over 14, almost 15 years now. And I used to be the former museum director at CCHR International. I'm not sure how many of you guys have toured the museum at CCHR, but you know, I personally toured somewhere in the order of 40,000 people through the museum. A lot of students, psychology, medical, criminal justice, pharmacology, even psychiatric nursing students and regular nursing students through there, as well as many, many others. And that's my background. I've definitely had my fair share of experience introducing folks to CCHR's message and our data, which, as you guys probably know, it can be pretty intense sometimes. So that has been my experience with CCHR International. And in the last few years, I've been working in public outreach and working with our strategic projects, and the museum was turned over elsewhere. And that is what we're doing right now. So tonight is actually, it's a very, very special night because we have an incredibly special guest with us. Normally you hear from myself and Reverend Fred Shaw. Fred has been with CCHR. He's been volunteering and working with CCHR for over 30 years now, you know, being at the helm of all of our protests that we have all over the place, all over the U.S. And Reverend Fred is quite an incredible guy. For those who, most of you guys have been on our webinars before, but there's several new people. So just so you guys know, Reverend Fred, firstly, he's a former deputy sheriff right here from LA. So he's seen a lot from that perspective. Reverend Fred is a minister, and you know, he had his own foster care facility, foster home for kids, and he's seen how psychiatry tried to get in there and drug those kids. Firsthand experience trying to push them away. Reverend Fred is the current vice president of the NAACP Inglewood South Bay chapter. For those who do not know what that is, that's the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. It's basically the oldest and largest civil rights organization in America. And they have supported CCHR International, I think pretty much more than any other group in terms of legislation and proposals for legislation. They have a massive influence on legislators around America. And in fact, if not for Reverend Fred right here and his work with the NAACP and them supporting us, we would not have passed federal legislation in 2003, making it illegal for schools to force parents to drug their kids as a requirement for schooling. That would not have happened without Reverend Fred Shaw and the NAACP support he got for us. So this is quite a man we're talking to, ladies and gentlemen. So before we introduce our very, very special guest, you guys all saw on the email, Reverend Fred Shaw would like to say just a couple of words. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce for those who know him and for those who don't, the auspicious, the amazing, the incredible Reverend Fred Shaw.
Well,
Aisha Bird from Africa.
Thank you.
She's on the webinar.
And I will pay you later for that glowing introduction. I want to thank everyone for coming on, and I just want to start this off thanking everybody for the support that they have given us. It's been a tremendous help, and many of you who have been on prior calls have suggested people and recommended people for the task force, the National Task Force on Eugenics-Based Racism. That has been a tremendous success. And we're getting all types of radio shows from you guys recommending, say, hey, I know a guy that does a radio show. I'll contact him and put you guys together. And this has been working tremendously for us. So we want to thank you along with everything else that we're doing. Some of you may not know what your support does for us, but I've had people who actually helped me get to conventions, our supporters who stand with us. They've contributed. I've been able to go to the conventions so that I could do these things that Aiton is saying that I'm doing, so that we can have the impact that we want. I've had people send me points, and I was able to go to Africa. There's a lot of things that your support does, and your financial gifts help. And so to start this off, I just basically wanted to go into that. I will ask you to please hang around toward the end. When I come back on again, I'm gonna give you some data, some information, some of the impact people that we have now on the task force, which has now gone over 50 people. So we just want to, thank you again, and thank you for your support. We cannot do this without your support.
Ladies and gentlemen, Reverend Fred Shaw. Reverend, thank you so much for that. We appreciate all of your work with CCHR and the new task force. For those who are new to CCHR's task force, I'm not sure if you're aware, if you guys know what that is, but we started just a few weeks ago, this task force that Reverend Fred was talking about against eugenics-based racism and the medical model of psychiatry, and to expose that, not just to the Black community, but to the world at large. And Reverend Fred, like he said, he'll tell you some of the incredible people that he has signed up onto this incredible task force that is putting a lot of information out into the environment and getting truth out there, which is so needed right now. So anyway, hang around till the end. Reverend Fred is going to tell you a bit more about that. But tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest. I'm actually going to ask Lisa Miss Lisa Kane, Professor Kane, to introduce herself, and she can tell you a bit about herself. But Professor Kane, as you saw in the email, she's a professor of psychology, has been so for many years. She has a very interesting story as to how she came to, let's say, go against the grain and re-educate herself and re-educate others on the true history and intentions and the abuses in the mental health system and what the system itself is based on. And not only that, she has educated thousands of psychology students. Probably, we worked out it's probably 1,200, 1,300 students per year, I believe, for the past 15 years. And I would like to give a very warm welcome to an absolutely incredible, an awesomely warm-hearted, a ferocious freedom fighter, though she's got an awesome smile that will, make your heart melt at the same time. The very awesome, the incredible Lisa Gordon Kane. Professor Kane, you are on. Oh, Lisa, I think you're on mute, by the way.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you unmuted me. I was saying that I'm with Fred, that I'll have to pay you afterwards for all those lovely things that you said.
Ladies and gentlemen, disclaimer, I'm being paid apparently to be people's personal PR agents. I didn't know this until now, so this is good to know.
All I can say is that for someone who's working in a field that I love understanding the human brain and how it works. And I found myself not really being able to align with my colleagues and their practices and wanting to join up with people in their practices. And what I found was I was drifting because I didn't want to practice with a biomedical model. I'm more interested in prevention and holistic practices, and that was just not the paradigm that people were wanting to put out into the world and seeing people within 10 minutes, diagnosing them and then referring them to a psychiatrist, I being a psychologist, for medical neuroleptic drugs. And I was like, wow, it just really threw me off, because I really wanted to come into the profession to be an assistance and a help to people. And that's how I wandered for quite some time, figuring what would I do. So I went into teaching, which I love, and again found myself kind of hanging in the rafters when it came to how I would present the material to the students and tell them that I did have a bias, that I did not follow what the textbook was, basically steering people to believe that the only way they could have mental health was to take some kind of psychotropic medication. I just didn't believe that. I thought that it was best suited if it was where you have a non-judgmental, supportive, kind of empathic person listening to you. You didn't need to be shocked electrically. You didn't need a shot or a pill, but you could learn how to cope with life like all of us have to, as we're all living in this human condition. And I was really kind of depressed myself until I read this newspaper one day. And I don't even remember. It was a college newspaper. And Ethan might know the name of it. I don't recall the name of it. But
was that the Campus Circle?
That's the Campus Circle. Campus Circle.
Okay.
I don't even know if they're still in existence. Dating both you and I, Ethan. And it told me about the museum. So I was like, oh, let me go and see this place. So I go in, and I spent 3 days in the museum. I mean, I didn't spend the night there, but I left. I went back the next day. It took me 3 days to get through it, because I was notating things and I was referencing things, and I just felt so like I was back on fire, because now I knew there were people who also saw what I saw. And then from that point on, I supported CCHR. That's my story.
That's fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Lisa Kane. So, Lisa, we were talking a little bit, and you had mentioned that you got your master's in psychology. I don't want to give any years away to, you and I won't date ourselves at all, but it was a little bit ago. And you had mentioned something that really struck me, which I didn't know about you actually until today. I definitely knew about the Campus Circle and the advertisement for the museum, because I was the first person to greet you when you walked in the doors. I remember that very clearly. But before that point, you had told me about a point in your life where you started questioning what you'd been taught. You said you were just about to graduate with your master's in psychology. Tell us a little bit about what changed your opinion about what you've been taught now for, 5, 6, 7 years to get your master's?
Yeah, I had gotten my BA in psychology, child psychology, and went on to get my master's. And I was going to go into the doctoral program for clinical psychology, and I just couldn't line up with the paradigm. And I was like, well, I don't know if I want to entrench myself in this anymore. And someone came in one day and brought Dr. Lauren Mosier's resignation letter. And
Lisa, I'm going to interrupt you there. Just before you tell us that, hold that thought. I just want to let everyone know who Dr. Lauren Mosier is. Dr. Lauren Mosier was a psychiatrist who actually generally did not believe in psychiatric drugs. Now, he was really interesting because he had started a facility and a whole modality to help people labeled schizophrenic, so people we would probably all agree had some severe trauma going on for whatever reason, right? And he was a member of the American Psychiatric Association. As you guys all know, CCHR goes and protests the American Psychiatric Association every single year, usually wherever they meet, right? Now, he was part of the American Psychiatric Association. And the letter that Professor Kane is referring to is Dr. Lauren Mosher's letter of resignation from the American Psychiatric Association. And this is what one of her fellow students had brought in. This is in the middle or toward the end of Professor Kane getting her master's. Now, we actually reference Lauren Mosher in one or two of our DVDs, I believe, in The Marketing of Madness, which talks about, alternatives, viable alternatives that had been around instead of the medical psychiatric model, like how to help people we would all agree have some serious trauma or issues going on, right? That the mental health system labels a mental disorder, but, we're not going to fully go there right now. But the point is, Dr. Lauren Mosher believed in humane alternatives. Now, how many of you guys would like me to read just some words from Dr. Lauren Mosher's famous resignation letter from the American Psychiatric Association that sent ripples and waves through the psychiatric community? Okay, I have a whole bunch of thumbs up over there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Lisa, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but I thought I would read this since you mentioned it.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So now, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to get a taste of what Professor Kane actually read and saw that changed her mind about what was going on, keeping in mind she'd been studying, almost graduating her master's. So this website I'm on, it's a website dedicated to Lauren Mosher and the Soteria House, or Soteria Project. That was his name for his facility and his project. And it says, "Your schizophrenia without antipsychotic drugs and the legacy of Lauren Mosher." Now, keep in mind, as you guys probably know, CCHR does not agree or ascribe to these labels that are so-called mental disorders. We know that there are lists of symptoms, behavioral symptoms, that are voted on by hand, not medically proven, and then labeled a disorder to be treated with drugs, just like a medical disease. Right, so we're not going to debate over that right now, but yes, it does say schizophrenia without antipsychotic drugs on his website. So basically, people we would all agree who had some serious trouble, right? So here's what he wrote. This was 4th of December, 1988. Dear Rod, after nearly 3 decades as a member, it is with a mixture of pleasure and disappointment that I submit this letter of resignation from the American Psychiatric Association. The major reason for this action is my belief that I am actually resigning from the American Pharmacological Association. Luckily, the organization's true identity requires no change in acronym. Unfortunately, the APA reflects and reinforces in word and deed our drug-dependent society, yet it helps wage war on drugs. Quote-unquote dual diagnosis clients are a major problem for the field. That's someone who has a so-called mental disorder and drug dependency at the same time, just so you guys know what I just read. But not because good drugs are prescribed. Bad ones are those that are obtained mostly without prescription. The Marxist would observe that being a good capitalist organization, APA likes only those drugs from which it can derive profit, directly or indirectly. This is not a group for me. At this point in history, in my view, psychiatry has been almost completely bought out by the drug companies. The APA could not continue without the pharmaceutical company support of meetings, symposiums, workshops, journal advertising, grand round luncheons, unrestricted educational grants, etc., etc. Psychiatrists have become the minions of drug company promotions. Give me 1 second, ladies and gentlemen. I just need to mute one person. Oh, good. We're all good. All right. Here we go again. Where did I get up to? Here you go. Sorry about that, guys. The APA, of course, maintains that its independence and autonomy are not compromised in this enmeshed situation. Anyone with the least bit of common sense attending the annual meeting would observe how the drug company exhibits and industry-sponsored symposia draw crowds to their various enticements, while the serious scientific sessions are barely attended. Mm-hmm. Psychiatric training reflects their influence as well. The most important part of a resident's curriculum is the art and quasi-science of dealing drugs, i.e. prescription writing. These psychopharmacological limitations on our abilities to be complete physicians also